So once again, welcome to this session. And like we discussed and we shared in the email that today we'll be looking at three topics. We are going to be looking at conditional formatting. We'll look at let me see that again. Data validation, and then we'll start pivot table. The facilitator, that's Jennifer, who is supposed to take us in a conditional formatting this morning, is unavoidably absent. So we are going to do the conditional formatting later this evening. And then we are bringing the data validation to this morning. So what we'll be looking at this morning is data validation. So we are going to be using one of the files that we shared. I think any one of them, the sheet that we'll be using is inside it. Okay, so let me just pull out the sheet and then share. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the mute button be on everybody's disposal so that you can speak. You can do that on your own and speak. Please, let's just be sure that when we are not speaking to the class, our mics are muted. Okay, so right now, anyone will be able to unmute and speak. Okay, so just okay, so let me share the other one first. Okay. Let's go ahead with this. So I'm going to sorry, no, it's not this one. Sorry. Just a minute. I pulled out the data now. I'm just trying to see where it has gone to data validation. Okay, there it is. All right, so I hope you can see the screen right now.
Yes.
All right, so thanks.
Yeah. So you can see the screen.
Okay, if you look at the file that we share, that is file 2, VDA Excel file 2, you are going to right click on any of the tabs, and then you see the options. So you choose on hide. So when you click on hide, you will see a sheet labeled data validation. So you click that one. That is the one that we'll be using for this session. So let's just look at why is data validation necessary in data analysis. Why is it necessary? So it's necessary because it helps us to achieve consistency of our data. And I want to be discussing with examples. So if we are designing a tool to help us collect data, it's necessary that the entries must be consistent. Let's say, for example, if we have state here and we have local government here, and 3 persons are from Benue State. Okay, now let's say 3 persons are from Nigeria. You know, Nigeria, this because we have other people from other countries. So let's use what will be universal in terms of understanding. So let's use country, for instance. And here we have country. Then what else can we have here? Okay, and we are going to be looking at the status. So for country, we have, let's say, 5 persons who are making entries for us to analyze. One of them, now we have Nigeria, we have Cameroon, we have United Kingdom, we have
DCR.
DCR. Okay. So now those in Nigeria, there are 5 of them, and 2 of them decided to write like this. So let's get this a bit somehow here. Then we have 4 Nigerian. The other ones are writing like this. Then the other one made a mistake and put a space and then write Nigeria.
Niger. Oh, somebody write Niger.
Okay, now let's look at this. And then we have 3 persons. One is writing Cameroon. Another one is writing Cameroon. Another person writing Cameroon. Then somebody wrote United Kingdom. That one wrote UK. The other one wrote United Kingdom. And then let's say, remember this is for all this. Then this person wrote Democratic Republic of Congo. I guess this is what you mean. And then
yeah, one is DCR, yeah, one is
D.C.R. The other person wrote DCR. Now, let's color code these countries. let's have this. And say this. Okay, now let's just use this. For instance, now we want to look at counts. Now, if we want to do analysis, personally, and anybody looking at this visually, they are the same. So you can easily write Nigeria. Okay, so let me just this.
GCR.
I want to pick this one out here. So this is my count. And let me just get this in close. Then this is Cameroon. This is UK. And this is DCR. So our interest now is to know how many people, how many entries are for Nigeria. If we were to do this as human beings, we could just go straight and write 3 because we know NG means Nigeria. This also means Nigeria. This also means Nigeria. Now, there is another thing another error that I want to point out. Just let me shift this one down. Let's say Nigeria here, and here is Nigeria. And then at the end of Nigeria, I am putting a space and I enter. You would think this and this, they look alike. By human observation, they look alike. These 3 look alike. And if we were to do it on our own, we could just write 3 here. Then here, we will say, well, this would have made a mistake, but we know it's Cameroon, all of them want to make right. So this is 3. The same thing here and here. But because we are using machine intelligence to do our analysis for us, they see this as different entities. So if we go ahead and say, let this count for us, count here, if it is Nigeria, it's going to count only 1. Whereas we are seeing 1, 2, 3, 4. Why is it so? Because this is different from this is different from this. So this, even though they mean the same thing, but they are not consistent. So it's very important for us to ensure that we are giving our users a template that will help them to give us data that is consistent for easy analysis. Yesterday, somebody just called me on my way, and he has a very messy data, over 4 million records. He needs to analyze, but they are all entered in different variables. The variables are not consistent. So when he talked to me and I looked at it and I said, yes, I started questioning the development of the data tool. And then it made me realize that it was something that was just drawn out from different sources. Okay, so I'm going to be helping that person to see how we can transform that data in the very shortest possible time. So this is what it helps you to avoid. Assuming these entries, we have 200,000 such entries. And maybe those ones that are correctly entered, they are only 50. The other one, maybe 1,000, and so on and so forth. It's difficult for the machine to analyze with those inconsistencies. So this is why data validation is very, very key. If you have to present the template, the data collection tool on Excel or any spreadsheet, So I'm just trying to take time to explain why data validation is very, very key. And then I have just mentioned about a messy data that is difficult to work on. But avoiding that kind of messy data, we can only use data validation to reduce the incidences of such inconsistencies. Now, I'm going to use a Vlookup to give us an example, because when you need to extract data, or you need to merge data, or you need to consolidate, there are times Vlookup is very handy. It's very, very handy. So if the data you have entered are not consistent, it becomes very difficult. And let me just, let me look for, let me see, I'm going to use a very unique one. There was one, I think there was one, this thing that I did here with the emails. Let me see if this department, okay. All right, so here I'm going to use email. So I'm going ahead to, let me delete all these ones. So let me just give us a scenario now. In one of the courses that we are hosting from University of Washington, some people registered, let's say Samson Emelike is the certificate name, and then the Gmail, the address, the email address is scmelike@gmail.com. And then when I heard that I should look at the certificate name so that it will be the way I want it, I realized that no, it should have been Emelike Samson rather than Samson Emelike. So I went ahead and registered again using the same email. But then my certificate name now becomes Emelike Samson. Now, when we were confirming the roster, I used the name, the column, as my search value. I encountered a lot of NAs not available. Why? Because the names differ. Emelike Samson is not the same thing as Samson Emelike when it comes to data validation. But what was unique was that email. So I now had to use email to search, and I got those answers that I wanted. So this is what happens when you want to transform your data. You know, in analysis, you do data transformation as part of your data cleaning. Maybe if they are not consistent, you begin to make them to be consistent. You are transforming the data to have a different look so that they can be consistent. And that is part of cleaning. Okay, so I'm going to use what we have on the screen now to describe how we can use a unique variable to do a VLOOKUP search, especially when we know we have encountered a problem without using the data validation. So I don't need these points. Let me see. Okay. Now let me just create a small, where is my data validation? We are done here. So let me just create a small array here. And Okay. We are going to use this to do small data validation, and I'm going to, let me just see the one that will be of interest to us. Let's remove this. So I'm deleting this, and I'm going ahead to type page dot Lisa at, let's say, avron360.org. Then I do the same thing for everyone here. All right, so now we have this. If for any reason, now this, sorry, this our data, let me reduce this also. This our table here, we have some key things here that we want to pick from. I think it's good. Let me even just get some. Where is it? Unique entries. Okay, so no problem. Let's just go ahead and now I want to get a value here, and that my value is going to be, I think I need to, we are looking at their status. Okay, let's look at their compensation over here. I actually want to pick something from here that is very, very far away from, okay. Okay, so we don't have these details. So we want to extract these details. We want to extract these details from this table. Now, here, I'm going to say equals to Vlookup. I'm looking for this Don Matthew. And where am I looking for that? I'm going to look for it at this unique data sheet. So I'm going to just click here and come up to this point. Okay, and I'm going to be interested in this compensation column, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you remember what we discussed during, what was her name? During Jennifer's Vlookup presentation. So I'm looking at it from unique, and we are looking at 10, and I'm looking for exact match. So this is the value. This is the compensation. I look for compensation. So let me zoom this. Now this is the compensation because it's on number 10. When we look at this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But if we are looking for the first name, second name, is 2 is the first name, 3 is the second name. So now let's just go ahead and look at that data validation. So if we put 3 here, it's going to give us name, the first name. And if we put 4 it's going to give us not. If we give 2, it's going to give us done. Okay, so this is just to buttress what we learned. So I'm going ahead to bring this down. Now, what I want to do now is I'm going to put a space. I'm going to put a space somewhere here. Now, let's say I put space here. See what's going to happen. I put space here and I enter. It hasn't found it. Even though the spelling and everything has not changed. But the introduction of that space has distorted this data. And so this is no longer consistent with what we had then. But however, if we had put a data validation and then you put a space, it will reject it. So that is why it's important to use data validation. So when I remove that space, it has now found it. Now, how do we do data validation? So again, let me insert so that I can create a space here. Now, what we are going to be looking at now is how it is applicable, the data validation, how it is applicable. So what we are going to be looking at now is we are designing a template. We are designing a template for users to make entries. We are going to design a drop-down menu as our entries. And then we are going to also create a dependable drop-down. So before we start, I would like to pause and ask if there are questions or comments so far. So it's open. Just raise your hand. So we have just 2 minutes to raise a hand or send chat, and then we'll now continue. So Lillian, your hand is up. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, thank you very much. Sorry, my network has been fluctuating. I've come in and out like 4 times. So okay. I'm just appealing if when you finish attending to people's questions, if you can just go over one more time, because I just switched over to another network. Thank you.
It's okay. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead. If there are questions, if there are comments, we'll see their hands or we'll see the chat. Okay, so what I tried to explain in the session that we just passed was to give us the essence of data validation, why it is important, the kind of errors it helps us to avert. And specifically, I mentioned consistency of our data. And I use these entries here to make those explanations. I said, when we are making entries, there are entries that for human observation, it may not look as if there is an error, because we are able to decipher that, yes, this, and this, they mean the same thing. But because we are going to be using machine to do our analysis, there are certain things that we must observe if we must get the correct analysis from the machine. And that is making our data consistent. So for each of these entries here, like for Nigeria, we know from our human knowledge NG. If somebody writes NG, maybe the person is in a hurry and has written NG, so you can safely, to some extent, assume this is Nigeria. Another person might write this completely spelled well, spelled Nigeria. But because of the presence of space, either at the beginning, like we see here, there is a space here, or at the end here, if we double click here, we'll see where our cursor is blinking. It tells us there is a space there. If we click here, there is no space at the end, but you will see that there is a space at the beginning. If we double click here, there is no space here. Here, there is no space here. So the machine is seeing this at 4 different entities or different entries. The same thing happens here in Cameroon. When you see this spelled this way, you will assume, and of course, pardon the user or the person that has made the entry, that these are all the variable spellings or variant spellings of Cameroon. Same thing happens here, United Kingdom, UK, and this. So in order to ensure that we minimize the degree of inconsistency, that is when we use data validation. Okay, so this is what I tried to explain. For all the sessions that we have had, we have been recording them and we have been sharing them, both on the WhatsApp group and via emails. And this one is also being recorded, and we are going to share it also. Okay, so if you have not accessed the previous ones, check your email, it's there. And also on the WhatsApp forum, we have shared them. So we are going to look at data validation right now. And like I said, we will look at, not dynamic, let's look at dependable drop downs. Okay, so I'm going to use some of this, we have USA, sorry, we have the countries that we have enumerated here, and we are going to use them as example. So I'm going ahead to pick this, and I'm going to drop them here. And already you know that, okay, so here, I'm going to pick this also and drop like this. Okay, so what I am doing now is, these are the countries. Okay, so let me create another this thing here. So here I have country, and here I have this. Let me delete this and transpose it to this point. Great. So so we have this running. Now we want to give our users the opportunity to use this exact way to choose their countries and choose their states. And then we can also do the same thing anyhow we want. So for US, let me choose 4 states. Then in Nigeria, let me also choose 4. For example, we are going to look at 1, 2, 3, 4. This is Cameroon. Our Cameroonian friends, I hope this is correct. Okay, so this is what we have now. So if we are going to make our template for people to make entries into, so we are going to put We want them to choose country. Then we want them to choose state or region. Okay, so this is all that we have now. We have country and state region. Now, what data validation means is that you are restricting your users to certain lists. Okay, thank you, Belinda from Cameroon, for confirming that. We have these countries, we have each of these, either the states or the regions, or so on and so forth. So, but we want to restrict them to a list. Now, there are different ways you can create your list. And there is one that I prefer. And the reason I prefer is that when there is a sudden mistake or a change, you do not encounter so much problem to correct them. Now, I'm going ahead to begin the data validation. So we want people to make entries into this country. Sorry, I want to do this here. We want people to make entries and select, not to impute. So let me put here date. Let me put here, what are the options that we will put here? And age, good. So I'm going to put here, I'm coming to my data tab on the ribbon here. I click this, and then the data tab opens to various items in them under the menu. Right here under my data tools, I have this data validation. So I'm going ahead to open it, and then it comes. By default, every cell in a spreadsheet, by default, allows any value. So that's why here I can input number, I can input text, I can input date, I can input a combination of numbers and text, and it will accept it. Now over here, you see input message. This is what you want people who want to make entries. You want it to show them and guide them on what to impute. And then here is what tells the user when an incorrect or invalid entry is made. So over here, you have stop, you have warning, and you have information. When you put stop, it means that wrong entry can never be accepted by the sheet or by that cell. It will not accept it. When you put warning, and then the person imputes an invalid entry, the system will warn the person that what you have entered is invalid. But in this case, the user is permitted to either change it or go ahead with it. The same thing applies to this. It gives you information and it can accept it. But once it comes to stop, it does not accept it. So we are going to be looking at this one after the other, and thereafter we'll give ourselves exercise. So now let's go to the setting. Remember that here, this is our country. We don't want them to choose any other country other than these four, either the US or Nigeria or Cameroon or Sierra Leone. So I come over here, I am going to say, I want it to allow an entry from a list. So I'm choosing my list. Now, I need to define the source. Where is the list? Where can it be found? Where can Excel go and pick up this list? Now, like I say, there are different ways we can define our source. I'm going to give us one now. One is I can type them directly here, and I separate each one by a comma. So I can put US, comma, Nigeria, comma, Cameroon, comma, Sierra Leone. So that's all. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's done. So I can click OK. When I click OK, right under here, it contains those lists, those countries. So I can choose US, or I can choose Nigeria, or Cameroon, or Sierra Leone. Now, if this is empty, you see there is nothing here. So somebody might say, okay, country, I'm from USA, and I enter. It tells you this value doesn't match the data validation restriction defined for this cell. So I can try it again. These people not knowing the US, okay, okay, somebody might say, okay, it's only US. It's okay, US, so I dot S, and I enter. It's still not accepting it. So I'll try again. So if I'm able to put US alone and enter, it still does not. So I need to look at what is here. So let me cancel and then open here and choose this. Now, let me also look at assuming it is warning, not stop, that we input here. So I'm going ahead to right click, select here, then come to my data validation. And then here, I'm looking at the settings. So now let's look at the error alert. It's stop. So assuming it is ordinary warning that I put here, I can go ahead. And then I decided to put USA and I enter, telling you this value doesn't match it to, but do you want to continue? It has caught your attention. If you go ahead and say continue, and then you run into error, then that is your own business. But certain necessities warrant this. And we are going to be looking at it when the time comes. So assuming for this one now, we have inputted yes, this. And then we are going to make some other entries. So as I delete here, and then here, I put Nigeria, and then here, I put Cameroon. This is not well spelled. And I say, yes, go ahead. And my friend, this is Cameroon. Then we have this. Now, if you give me this, if you submit this for me, remember that there is going to be several of this, maybe up to 1 million records. And I don't have time to begin to search where and where has an invalid data been entered. All I need to do is to run a data validation kind of query to identify this. So I can select all this. Now, okay, let me just increase it more. So this is what we have entered. And I come over here. Where is I'm looking at this thing here. Not this. Where is it? I'm looking for, okay. I'm looking at, I want it to circle for me, to identify for me every invalid data that has been entered on this sheet based on what I have defined. This is also part of my data cleaning and transformation. So I'm going ahead to click this, and you will see all those data, all those areas where things were entered wrongly. It has been circled. So when you look at this, here, my definition or the data validation defined for this was, I seem to be hearing a noise. Okay. Sorry. So I seem to, I'm actually distracted. There's some noise coming from the, okay. So I have these invalid entries. Now, for me to set this alert to warning, it means I have a reason. And it helps me to identify outliers. It's possible that it's correct. It's possible that there is a reason for that. So when I do this, I can now begin to look at each of these entries critically to know whether I will allow it or not. So you can see it has highlighted those areas. Nigeria was fine. Nigeria, I think it was only Nigeria that was fine. So if we put this, it goes off. So here, Cameroon, I said there's no need for this. It should have been Cameroon. It goes off. USA also, okay, this one is this, and so on and so forth. So this is how to run, sorry, this is Cameroon. This is how to run your data validation, and you try to find out where the errors are. So now we have looked at the country. Now, let's look at dependable drop-down. After this, I'm going to allow us to do exercise, ask questions and do exercise. So I want the options that will be here. Remember that we'll put options here. I want the options that will be available for me here. Let it be based on what is here. Sorry, let me mute everyone. I think I'm hearing DRC. What's the problem? It's coming from you. Sorry, I have to mute everyone and sorry. So I want the state or region that will appear here. Let it be dependent on whatever that is here. Now, for this particular one, I want to delete this entry here so that you see the error, a kind of message that will come up, and then you will run into a problem, assuming you are doing this on your own. So I come over here, I'm going ahead to click this, and I want this list. So what do I need to do? I'm going to put an indirect, is a function, an indirect function. So I put that indirect function and I'm clicking here. Okay. And I enter. The source currently evaluates to an error. Do you want to continue? The reason why this is popping up is that here, there is no entry here. There is no entry here. So I go ahead. Now, when I click here, there is nothing here. So, but if I click here, remember that I have not defined this yet. I have simply defined this. But if I choose any country here, I have also not defined what this country or what are under this country. So I'm going to do that. Now, this is for US. All these states are under US. These are under Nigeria, and so on and so forth. So I am going to select all these ones under the US. Now, when you look over here, you will see my name box. So I'm going ahead to click here, and I'm going to rename it as US, and I enter. So if I click anywhere and I select these two, it's still not US. I increase the third one, it's not. But when I increase the fourth one, the name is US. That's because I have renamed this set of cells. I've renamed them. So they are US. Now, in the database, in the name database of this workbook, US means a selection of Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, and Arkansas. So I'm going to ahead to do the same thing here, selecting all these states under Nigeria, and I'm going to rename this as Nigeria. Please always note that whatever you put here, it must correspond to what is here. The spelling, the spaces, if there are, the strings, if there are, should be the same. Otherwise, you run into error. So I'm going ahead to click enter. Then here also is Cameroon, and it does not matter whether you start with capital, it's not case sensitive. Cameroon, and then here, this is my Sierra Leone. Now, the reason it's saying this is that it does not accept a space in the name. So what we need to do is, I'm going ahead to escape. And here, because I told you that whatever name that is here must be here. So now, why not we just use Sierra Leone, SL as Sierra Leone, and enter. And then here, we can use SL and enter. However, when we begin to look at this, we are still seeing Sierra Leone, but not SL. That brings me to the second option of how to list our source. So I'm going to do something now. I'm going to hold this, pick these ones now. You see this one that I have here? I'm going ahead to, let me transpose it here. Let me just create a space here. Good. So I have this now. Now, I am going to carry the whole of this. Okay, I don't even need the space here because they are still the same name that I'm going ahead to continue. So here, this is my US, Nigeria, this is my country. So I put like this. Oh, sorry, I already have country here, so I can equally use that. I have my country here. So I'm going ahead to choose this and label it as my country. Now, doing this saves you a lot of problem because if I have to change this, if I have to change the source now so that it will have, they will just get these names. I don't have to go and start changing the sources one after the other. I simply need to do a change at one point and it reflects in all. Now, let's see what we mean by this. Here, we have US. If I choose US here now, and I come over here, you see the list, the names, the state and region are based on what is here. So if I choose Nigeria, what appears here are all the states under Nigeria. If I come here to choose Sierra Leone, I will not see anything here. The reason is there is no Sierra Leone. Rather, what is available is SL. What is available is SL. So it means that I have to now change this. I now have to change my source. So I need to come over to my data validation, click the data validation. I now want to clean this so that I can capture the right thing. So my source is this. I can delete it, and then I'll write equals to country. Equals to country. So when I click this, I can now see the serial loan is still here, but now it is taking its source from this country. Now you see that I have US, I have this, I have this, I have serial loan here. Now see what's going to happen to this serial loan once I change this serial loan, which is under the country. So I'm going ahead to put SL. And when I come over here, I'll see SL has changed. But these ones is still SL because what I used to define here is not what I used to define here. So I can simply select all of them, go to my data validation, and then choose equals to country and enter, so that every other one that I enter here, I will see the SL, which is now here. So this is how, assuming we have a serial loan here, this is how to use the two different types of data, listing your source in data validation. So you can see that from here, serial loan is SL. Okay, so from say just a minute. For serial loan, we have Eastern, we have Northern, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to, okay, so go ahead and unmute yourself, Saidu, and speak.
Okay. Good morning, all. I just want some observation from my own side. Sometimes there are a lot of forward, backward that make someone to get a little confused.
Okay.
I think maybe if at least we started a particular way, we have to finish it before we now come back and started detecting the error that might happen. But sometimes we now started following a process, then we now stopped and discuss on the error, then we now go back, continue discuss the error. So I think maybe it is, to me, it's a little bit confusing. But if you take particularly, if we want to now do indirect validations, then let's finish the direct, indirect, then we'll now come and discuss the error that might happen separately. So therefore, they will not be confusing the error and the real work at a time. That's my suggestions.
Okay, it's well taken. I agree with you. So are there other questions? Okay, so let me take time and go through that again. Now, let us go about our, let's go through identifying our source. Please, is there any other questions so that I know if I need to take them along, or I'll just specifically go straight to this?
Okay, so can I say
please.
something? Okay, I was thinking that based on what Fam Saidu suggested, if, for example, if you could, like the first thing you treated today, or first two things, if you can just go over them in the next 5 minutes and you give us assignment to do on it, and then we can go to the next two things you taught, and then you give us assignment on it. Maybe the assignment doesn't have to take that long, maybe like 10 minutes or so, since we are almost done for today. Maybe that will help us to actually practice what you have taught us. and then we know what we've understood and what we don't understand.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, let's see how we can take this gently. You know, what I tried to do was to give us a preamble as to why the data entry, we need to put a validation. And then the next thing, I think where we need to talk more is on this, the actual data validation. And from what Saidu said, I went ahead to talk about identifying the invalid entries. Okay, you know, there are certain things that as you are discussing them, you also want to discuss why that is necessary. Okay, so I just merely mentioned that circling the invalid data to let us know that you can easily use that. It is not something we do in isolation. It's something that as we are going along, we just pick that as to reason why this is done this way. But now, having gone through this, let me just go a little bit slower and then take one at a time. So I'm going ahead to remove the data validation that I've set here. So I'm going ahead to clear. I've cleared that. So there is no entry anymore. There's no more entry. Sorry, just a minute.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, hi.
Yes, Saidu, just a minute, please. There's somebody
Okay.
that needed to say something to me. Just a minute. I will
Okay.
be back. Yes. Hello, okay, so sorry, I'm back here. We are going to also delete these ones. Now, when we need to restrict the entries that we need to allow, we use data validation. Now, these are the countries we want our users, those who are going to be using or collecting the data for us or making entries. These are the countries we want them to use or to pick from. So I'm going ahead to select all these. You can select one or you select all of them. I'm selecting all of them so that we'll just be fast. So under my data tab on the ribbon, I'm going over to this here. When I click this data validation, I have validation, I have circled this, and I clear this. So let me pick this one. Now, I also tried in our first, my first explanation, I tried to explain what this, and this are. And I want to believe that one is clear. So when we come to setting here, we want to allow values that come from a list. So where is that list? That is what we need to provide to Excel, to these sheets. Where is the list located? Now, I say there are two ways. Not only two ways, there are other ways, but I know about three, but you know, in Excel, you can never say these are the only things because newer things may come tomorrow and you are not aware. Maybe newer things came yesterday and I didn't know, but I know of three different ways to identify your source. One of them is to do direct typing, which is what I used the first time. You type US, you separate with a comma, you type Nigeria, you separate with a comma, and so you type. So assuming you have 100 items in that list, you type like that. But of course, you understand that that is very cumbersome. You want something that you can do in a jiffy. And I prefer that too. Then, if that is my option, I need to have identified the column or the row where that is, and then name that list, that row or column containing those items as a name, which was what we did here when I selected this USA, Nigeria, Cameroon, and so on and so forth. And then I renamed them. Now, let me take this thing one after the other. I'm going to show us the different sources. So let me escape here. Then here, let me just use different color codes for the different. Okay, this is 2. Let me just use this 2. Then this 2. Let me use another one. Then this 2. Yes, at least I said I know about 3 ways. So we have these 3 ways. So for these 2, I'm going to my data tab, data validation, list, and because we're looking at the country, these are my countries. So this is US. If you are typing in small letter, your options when you click here to choose your country will be in small. So that if we want it in caps, we put it like this: US, Nigeria, Cameroon, SL, and I enter. So you see that here, it is also displaying here, just the way I typed them. That is one way. Then the other way is, I'm going over to my tab, to this, and I want it. Remember that here, we didn't apply any data validation. So by default, like any other cell, it accepts any value. But right now, we're interested in the list. And then right now, we need to define the source. But I'm going to show us a different way of identifying my source. So I can collapse this so that I can do my selection. I come over here, I select all of them, and I enter. Now, because I had already renamed this as country, it has picked it as the name. It has picked it as a name. Another way, let me just, because I had already named this as our, in the name box, so I'm going to escape. I'm going to go back to data validation. I'm going to list my source. Since this is the same thing, I'm going ahead to choose this. Remember, I mentioned that it could be in a row, or in a column. So I have identified that. Now I did not rename this as any country, but it has picked it. So I go ahead and pick. And then when I open here, I still see those things the way that they are. I still see them. The same thing here, these countries. So these are the two ways so far. Then the third way is picking them together and then coming here to rename them. If I like, I can rename this thing to another thing again. However, in the name database, that name, I think two of them will exist. I can't remember if that is the case. Okay, so let's do it. Assuming I say countries, I enter. So we know that I have renamed this thing as countries. So let me go to the name base. This is my name base. You see it here. We have country here, and then we have countries here. So this can cause problem because these are the various names that I have. So I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to delete this. So you see now, after I've deleted it, it's now country. So now let's go back to my data. So these are the three ways that you can make your data validation. Remember, this is direct input. This is selection. Then this one, let's use the name. So I come over here, data, I click this. Please pick from a list. And that list is found in the name called country. I enter. So here, I can see this. I can see this. Now, the reason why this is necessary is if I am working on this, and then I am now told that US does not like this name. They like their name to be spelled USA. We want it to be called USA. So I can simply come here and put A. Now, if I come here, I will still see US because this one was direct typing. If I come here, I will see the USA. So it's easy for me to make only one change, and it has happened across all the cells that this has been applied. But it's not the same thing with this. This is still US because this one was used as a name. So this, if I want this to appear A, I have to put A here so that if I open here, it should appear as A. So my own recommendation is to use a name box for your list. And specifically, assuming that if you have, you are running a program and the template somewhere is male and female, and you have put M, and you have typed M, another place you type F, and then they say, no, please put it in full. That means all the places where you have M and F, you need to go and start typing male and female in full. But if you had made a reference to a selected list or name of a list, you just go there and type it and it changes across. Only one effort, the correction is done across all. Okay, so at least with that, I'm sure there is a better understanding on how to create data validation from a list using the different ways of identifying your source. Is that correct? Let me pause here and get your feedbacks.
No, it's very correct.
Okay.
Excellent from my own side.
Okay. So can we take 2 minutes from what I shared? You can create something like this very, very fast. not using so many of them. I haven't done the dependable one yet. We have just done the straight one. So just go ahead and do the straight one. And then later, we'll now look at the dependable lists, where what has to be here is based on what is here. So let's use, okay, let me give us 5 minutes. Let's be back 11:35. 11:35, I will continue, please. Thank you.
Hello, pharmacist, Samson.
Yes, yes, Farm Said, I'm here.
Please, where do you share the working template? I didn't see it in my email.
Did you see anyone? I think I have shared two. Have you received anyone at all?
No, I haven't.
You haven't?
Yes. I checked my mail. There is no any new message.
Okay, so
No
let me
message
share this with everybody now. Don't worry. So I have shared the file again. Please check. The one I even shared is the one I am currently using. So it's time. This is 11:35. So we are back again. So did anybody encounter any problem here? Did anybody encounter any problem here? I'm going to use my country. I'm going to use the country as my list. And I mean where my list is located so that I can use it in the next exercise. So are we good to go? Should we go ahead? Hello, can I get feedback?
Yes, I think we should go ahead.
Okay. So the next thing that we want to look at now is creating a dependable list. Create a dependable list. So I'm going to do only one of these, and then you will do the rest. And then I will do this. So this is what I am going to do. I'm going to do this once, and then you will do the rest. So a dependable list is the one. For instance, if you want local government and you are dealing in Nigeria, for instance, you know that we have 36 and 1 and the Federal Capital Territory. So each of those states, they have different local governments. So if you want somebody to choose a state, you have provided 37 options. And then when you come to the local government, you want to restrict them to an option that is only available with respect to the state selected. For our own case, we want the options to open up the options that are only applicable to the country selected. So if we say state and the country chosen is Nigeria, we want the option that will be available to only be those states in Nigeria and excluding the states in the US, the states in Cameroon and SL. The same thing applies also. If I chose Cameroon, I want the region or the states available for me to choose. Let them be restricted to those coming from Cameroon. So that is what we are going to be doing now. And it involves using a function called indirect. Indirect. What that means is going to select a list that is dependent on what is here or anywhere that you're going to make reference to. So here, and I'm not going to type it directly here, I'm going to type it under the tab of my data tool. So I'm clicking here, I'm coming over here, and I want the list, just like we did for the country. But now here, I want it to indirectly choose from whatever that is available on this point. So I'm going ahead to type indirect. And just like we know, anytime we open anytime we are typing a function, we will begin to define our parameters by opening a bracket. So The thing is this one. Now, you need to pay close attention here because I've selected only one. And if you're not careful and you scroll down, that's after entering this and you pull down to duplicate whatever you have done here, you are likely going to run into an error because this F9 is fixed. So when you come here, this will be looking at this point here. So this is for cell referencing, which is in is an entirely different course on its own. So, but what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to remove, I'm going to remove this $sign from 9. I'm only going to fix it on F, the column, but I'm not going to fix the number. So I'm going to delete this F, this one here, then close my brackets and I'll enter. So whatever that I have imputed here is dependent on what is here. You can see Abia State, Adamawa State, and so on and so forth are under Nigeria. But before I did this, remember that we had to define what each of these countries means. Just a minute. So we had previously defined what each of these countries contain, or the states and region under them. Remember that under USA, we had selected this, and then we named it USA. Of course, we are going to run into problem by the time we choose USA somewhere. So say, for instance, now, if I have chosen USA, I won't see anything here. See, I'm clicking. The reason is here is USA and not, sorry, it's US and not USA while defining this. So if we have anything here, and because we have imputed indirect function here, it's looking at this point. So, okay, what is under USA? And we have not defined anything as under USA. So for me to do that, I need to go to the name database and correct it. Like I said again, this is outside the scope of this training, but I'm still going ahead for us to understand that when you run into an error, you need to go here. So here, I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to put USA. I put the A there, I click, and I'll close. So right now, if I come over here, you see now, I have this, I have those lists showing. But if it was when I didn't change this, it didn't show anything here because the names under here were defined as US, not USA. You can already see here, this has changed because I have had to go and change it under the name data manager. So now let's go back. I have done this. So this is, you are going to do the rest. Now for here, we don't want people to enter a date that contains text. For instance, now somebody might say today is 18th September 21. When the person put this, you will know that he's talking about 18th September. Then another person put like this, September 21. This is also date. Another person put 18/09/21. These are all different dates, and the machine may not likely pick all of them as the same thing. Meanwhile, we are talking about the same date. So it becomes important for us to define the way our date entries should be made. So I'm going ahead. I'm not deleting this because I want to use it to explain something. So I'm going ahead to click my data here, data validation. Now, by default, remember, is allowing any value. So when I click here, I have date. And then your date also, you want a range. You don't want somebody to put 1970. You want something that is more recent. maybe between a range of 10 years. So you can set that here. So you can set your date. However, you may also decide to put a date that is greater than this. So that means you are going to put only one date. You can also say you want a date equals to this. So you are restricting entry to a particular date. Less than, greater than, or equal than, or whatsoever. So it's good for you to explore all this. Okay, so let me just put that I want a date not greater than 12/12/22, not greater than this. So you see, there was an input here before the data validation. It will not call it an error because the thing was there before. However, if I still decide to put this 18th September 21, 18th September 2021, it's going to say no. So what about this? Because this thing was there before. But the moment you remove this and 12/12/2029. Okay, 12/12/2029, it has accepted it. Now let's look at what was it that we defined. We'll just click here. Greater than, the date should be greater than. So this one, of course, is greater than this. Okay, so what if we had chosen 2021? You will say no. Okay, so we have set the criteria to accept this. Okay, so it means it has to be this. Now let's go to age. For age, basically, you want that if you put age, some people may say, let's just give him the date that we were born. They will calculate the age. Or let's just write 55 YRS. Then others will write 55 YEARS, while others will just write 55. These are saying the same thing, but however, the machine is seeing them as different entries. So that's why it's good for us to identify and limit what will be entered here. So for instance here, I can decide to put only whole number. Now let's look at this number. Is it a between? Is it or whatever? So I'm not sure there's any, is there anything that's giving us free will to write any number at all? Okay, just whole number. Let's say not less than, where is it? Do we have not less than here? Not less than or greater than equal. Sorry, I don't know which one to choose. Just for, okay, say we are dealing with adults and we say the minimum is 30. So somebody now writes 29 years. You will say no. But my years is 29. That means you are not qualified. Okay, so what if I write 25? It says no. Okay, what if I write 35? It accepts it. But now I want to write years, 34 years. Since that is what they say, it says no. So it must only be whole number. This is how to put this. So I think this is all that we can do. It's just for you to do the rest now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow us to do the rest in the next 10 minutes, and then let's get your feedback. I will, let's say, This is 11:50. So in 3 minutes to 11:57, that's 7 minutes from now, I will ask us to submit any queries that we have and so on and so forth. So this is just for this session. Thank you, everyone. Waiting for your feedbacks.
Okay. Sorry, but I have a little concern.
Okay.
Based on what we plan to achieve, with the rate we are going, can we get them? Can we finish within the given time?
Yes, we have more time.
Okay.
What we have done is every session is for every topic. So to this morning session is just for data validation, which we have completed.
Okay.
In the evening, we have only conditional formatting, and then we are done. So we carefully selected the time and the topics.
Okay, it's okay.
All right, so here we are again. Are there complaints? Are there difficulties?
I think there is none from my side.
Thank you.
I'm even happy that I used that formula to correct my US, making it to USA.
Okay.
And I also dragged down the first one. After choosing the first one, I drag it and it becomes applicable to all the state and the other columns.
Okay.
Yes, the same thing with the date. The date I use the in between 1st January 2020 to 31st December 2021, so that no date should be chosen beyond or above that.
Okay,
and
that's
it fits
fine.
and it works.
So that's fine.
So I'm happy.
Any feedback from any other person? Adeshola, you've been off and on. It's like network has not been friendly with you today. Hello, Adeshola, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, network has been bad, but I'll download the recording and go through again. So if I have any questions, I'll get back to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I think you are one of those that have actually been getting across. I appreciate that feedback. Say, is your hand up or is old hand?
Just raise up my, I raised up my hand. I wanted to seek for more clarification.
Okay.
That now that we have done the indirect linking the state, the country and the state.
Yes.
Can we also do it in the second, if I have many columns that I want to now link it with the state, the country, state, local government, maybe even the town, can I link it up using the indirect?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, but you need to now define the local government. Say, for instance, now, okay, it's about time. I don't want to take people's time. So I can discuss with you. If anybody wants to hear my explanation further, you can please wait because it's already 12. Okay, so officially, this session has ended, and I'll be available for the next 5 minutes to just expatiate on some key questions that are coming up. Okay, so if you want to wait, fine. But if you want to go, that's fine too. We are closed for today. We are not treating any other new topic. Okay, so assuming I have local government here, LGA, and just a minute. Okay, so assuming we have, okay, I think, let me just stop the recording so that